I'm Riley, I'm 31, and my fiancé ghosted me a week before our wedding, so I turned the honeymoon he paid for into the kind of payback he'll never forget. You know how people say, you'll laugh about this one day? I'm still not laughing. But I do smile when I think about what I did. It was supposed to be the best week of my life. A white sand honeymoon on the Amalfi Coast, five-star hotels, candlelit dinners, the whole damn fairy tale. Instead, it turned into a personal horror story, followed by the most savage twist I've ever pulled off in my life. And before you judge me, no, I didn't key his car. I didn't scream at his parents or burn the wedding dress. What I did was quieter, colder, smarter. If you've ever been blindsided like this, comment below and subscribe. You're not crazy. And you're definitely not alone. The Monday before our wedding, I woke up to silence. That doesn't sound ominous, I know, but trust me, it was. Liam and I had been texting almost nonstop for weeks. Seating charts, catering questions, random I love you messages in the middle of meetings. We were that couple, annoying to other people, probably, but perfect in our own little bubble, and then Monday came. 5 days before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. I sent him a photo of my dress hanger and a funny meme about wedding nerves. No reply. A little weird, but not panic-worthy. I figured he was caught up with last-minute logistics. We'd both been running on fumes, double-checking vendors and wrangling family drama. I waited a couple of hours, then sent him a voice note. Babe? Just checking in. You okay? Still nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. My chest started to tighten. By 6 p.m., I'd messaged his sister. Hey, have you heard from Liam today? She replied instantly, not since last night. Why? Everything okay? I told myself not to spiral. People lose their phones. People get caught up. Maybe he was having a bachelor dinner and left his phone in the car, but that night, I didn't sleep, and by Tuesday morning, when his best man texted, weird, I haven't heard from him either, I knew something was wrong. No one could find him. Not his coworkers, not his family, not even his building's doorman. It was like Liam had just vanished. At first, I was terrified. I called every hospital in the area, filed a missing person report. I even went to his apartment. Nothing was disturbed. No sign of a struggle. No blood. No note, just his stupid cologne still lingering in the air like a ghost. But by Wednesday afternoon, a different kind of horror set in. My best friend Jenna found him, not in a hospital, not in a ditch, not even on the way to a surprise pre-wedding getaway. She found him on Instagram. In Berlin. At a rooftop bar with his ex-girlfriend. A selfie. Her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Both of them holding cocktails. The caption? Sometimes the heart just knows. I don't even remember dropping my phone. I just remember the sound of Jenna saying my name over and over as I stood there frozen, staring at the screen like it might glitch and fix itself. He wasn't missing. He wasn't dead. He had ghosted me. A week before our wedding and ran off with her. The same girl he swore he was totally over. The one he claimed had broken him in ways he couldn't explain. The one who, apparently, still had him wrapped around her glitter-painted finger. People say heartbreak is a dull ache. That's a lie. It's sharp. It slices. It rips right through you with no warning and no apology. I didn't eat for 2 days. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't think. Just lay on the bathroom floor with mascara dried on my cheeks, replaying every single conversation we'd ever had. Every I love you. Every I can't wait to spend forever with you. Every moment that now felt like a carefully constructed lie. Friends offered to come over. My mom wanted to fly in. I told them all no because I wasn't ready for comfort. Not yet. I was still processing the avalanche. But by Friday, something inside me shifted. I got out of bed. Took a long shower. Brushed my hair. Put on real clothes. Stared at my face in the mirror until I recognized myself again. And then I opened my email. Pulled up the travel itinerary. Liam had booked the honeymoon through a shared account. Paid in full. First-class flights. Ocean View Hotel. All-inclusive. Non-refundable. The reservation was still under Riley Carter and guest. And, just like that, an idea started forming. Not a reaction. Not an emotional tantrum. A plan. Something that felt like power, like fire in my chest that wasn't grief, but focus. I called Jenna. You still have your passport? She paused. You want to go? I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I'm not wasting the week I took off work, or the vacation he was too much of a coward to cancel. She didn't hesitate. I'll pack tonight. We left Sunday, the day I was supposed to be getting married. It took me years to trust someone like Liam. I wasn't one of those girls who believed in fairy tales. I didn't grow up sketching wedding dresses or picking out baby names in high school. I was practical, driven. The kind of girl who built a life first and figured love would find a way to catch up. By the time I met Liam, I was 28, working as a marketing director at a health tech startup, and genuinely okay being single. My last relationship had ended after 2 years with a polite but soul-punching, "I think we want different things," which was code for, "I don't want you enough to make this work." I wasn't heartbroken. I was numb, exhausted. I didn't date for almost a year after that. I didn't want to. Then came Liam. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party in the West Loop. It was one of those things I didn't want to go to. Too many couples, too many strangers, too many fake "what do you do?" smiles, but I went. I wore black jeans, a blazer, and boots that hurt after 10 minutes, but looked amazing. I was halfway through my first glass of wine when he walked up and asked if I was always this focused when pretending to check emails. I looked up, ready to roll my eyes, but he smiled. That smile, confident but not cocky, genuine but not try hard. "I'm actually deleting work stuff," I said, holding up my phone. "Oh, good," he replied. "Then I'm not interrupting productivity." I smirked. "You're interrupting something." And just like that, we clicked. We talked for over an hour by the kitchen island, ignoring everyone else at the party. He was funny, not in a punchline kind of way, but the kind of funny that made me laugh with my whole face. He asked questions. Real ones. He didn't interrupt. He didn't brag. He made space. That was what got me. He made space. That night, he walked me to my car, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. This tiny spark in my chest. Not fire. Not lust. Warmth. He texted me the next morning. Just 3 words. "Still interrupting something?" I laughed out loud. We were inseparable after that. He was the first man I dated who didn't make me feel like I had to dim my light. I'd talk about work wins and he'd hype me up. I'd rant about stress and he'd offer solutions but never try to fix me. He sent flowers to my office once just because I sounded tired on the phone. He remembered my coffee order. Asked about my sister by name. Took care of my dog when I had the flu without me even asking. He listened, and that kind of thing. When you've lived through mediocrity and disappointment, it feels like magic. We moved in together after a year. He proposed 8 months later, not with some big flashy gesture. Just one night at home over takeout, with candles and our song playing in the background. He slid a ring box across the table and said, "I don't want to build a life with anyone else. Will you marry me?" I didn't cry. I laughed. The kind of laugh that bursts out when joy can't stay inside your ribs. "Yes," I said. "Of course, yes." The next few months were a whirlwind. Venue tours, dress shopping, cake tastings, bridesmaid fittings, guest lists. It was exhausting but fun, or at least, it started that way. Then little things started happening. He started getting distant in weird moments. Like, he'd zone out during planning discussions, or change the subject when I'd talk about how excited I was for our vows. I chalked it up to stress. Liam wasn't a big planner. He hated logistics. I figured maybe the whole thing just overwhelmed him. I even told him we could elope if he wanted, but he said no, you deserve the day you've dreamed of. Which wasn't exactly true. I never dreamed of a wedding. I dreamed of him. Of us. That was the point. 2 months before the wedding, he told me his ex, Caroline, had reached out. That name hit like a shot of ice in the spine. I'd never met her, but I knew the history. They'd dated for 3 years. She dumped him for someone else, ghosted him for months, then circled back right as he started moving on. She apologized, he said. Just wanted to clear the air. And did she? I asked. I think so. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't push. I trusted him. God, I trusted him. The weeks that followed were full of checklist chaos. Final payments. RSVP confirmations. Travel coordination for family flying in. We were both drowning in details, and still I caught him smiling at me when I wasn't looking. Still felt him reach for my hand under restaurant tables. Still heard him say, "I can't wait to marry you," when he thought I was asleep. He had me fooled until the very last minute, until Monday morning, 5 days before the wedding, until he vanished, until Caroline posted that rooftop photo in Berlin with his arms around her waist and a caption that read like a slap to the soul. Sometimes the heart just knows. No explanation. No apology. No, I'm sorry, or I panicked, or I wasn't ready. Just disappeared. He had packed a suitcase and left me to untangle our life like it was nothing but a temporary arrangement. Like we didn't have a dog, a home, a history. Do you know how humiliating it is to cancel your wedding, to call the florist and say, "Actually, no, we don't need the peonies." To watch your mom cry not because she's sad for herself, but because she doesn't know how to fix this for you. To send out emails to guests saying the ceremony is off and read the replies. "Wait, what? And are you okay? And please let me know if you need anything." I didn't answer any of them. I couldn't, because answering meant confirming that the thing I believed in, the man I believed in, was never real. Or worse, was real and still chose someone else. But in that pain, something else woke up in me, something sharp, determined, because Liam thought he broke me. He thought ghosting me before the wedding was the final move. He didn't know I was just getting started. And that honeymoon he paid for, that flight he booked under Riley Carter and Guest, that 5-star coastal dream with an ocean view and rose petals waiting on the bed, it was still mine, and I wasn't wasting it. The plane lifted off at 6:12 p.m. on a Sunday, the exact time I was supposed to be saying I do. Instead, I was 38,000 feet above the Atlantic with my best friend Jenna beside me, both of us pretending the champagne in our glasses could numb the emotional wreckage I'd left behind. "Do you think he'll check the flight tracker?" I asked, eyes fixed on the sea backscreen. Jenna sipped her drink. "Let him." I stared out the window, watched clouds slip past like soft bruises. Part of me wondered if he thought I'd still be crying. If he expected me to curl up in bed, sobbing over lost vows and canceled deposits. If he thought I'd hide. He'd always underestimated what I was capable of when cornered, but I hadn't just come on this trip to heal. I came to haunt him. The Amalfi Coast was everything the brochures promised: dreamy cliffs, turquoise water, lemon trees heavy with sunlight. Our hotel sat high above the bay in Positano, with a balcony that overlooked the exact beach Liam and I once picked out together on Google Earth with a bottle of wine between us. Back then, it felt romantic. Like we were planning a life, not a location. Now it felt like a setup for my revenge. We checked into the suite, the same one Liam had paid for in full, non-refundable, 3 nights before ghosting me. The concierge greeted me as Mrs. Rooker, and I didn't correct him. I didn't have the energy. Or maybe I liked the sting of it. Inside the suite, the staff had already placed roses on the bed and scattered flower petals in the tub. A card sat on the dresser. Liam had signed it himself. "To the love of my life. Our forever starts here." Jenna read it over my shoulder, then ripped it in half without saying a word. We didn't speak for a full minute. Then I said, "We're not letting this go to waste." She looked at me. "You mean the room?" "No," I said. "The entire experience." I pulled out my laptop and opened Instagram, and right there, I changed the privacy settings on my profile from private to public. I updated my bio, recovering bride, rewriting the ending. Then I posted a photo, a shot Jenna took of me on the balcony, wearing the white silk robe the hotel had left in our room. I had a glass of Prosecco in hand, my hair twisted into soft waves, face turned toward the ocean. The caption read, "He booked the honeymoon." I brought the closure. It got 3,000 likes in an hour, and a DM from Caroline. Yes, that Caroline, the one he ran off with. The one in the rooftop photo. She wrote, "Caroline's heart. Is this about Liam?" I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot, because I was going to need receipts. Over the next few days, I did what I once thought would have broken my heart. I lived out the honeymoon, only I made it better. We booked spa treatments, posed in matching swimsuits. Did tastings at wineries we'd once dreamed of together, but instead of him, I had Jenna, who rubbed sunscreen on my back and told me I looked powerful when I cried and when I didn't. Every night, I posted a picture point one of me walking barefoot through the market, eating pasta in a silk dress, laughing with wind in my hair on a boat tour Liam had paid for with a company credit card. Every image was a mirror turned back toward him, and it worked. On the fifth night, he finally messaged me. Liam. Rooker, Riley. Can we talk? I stared at the notification like it might catch fire. Jenna leaned over. Let him sweat. But I opened it, not to respond, just to watch, because this wasn't just betrayal. It was a case study in who he really was when the mask fell off. Over the next 48 hours, he sent me 7 messages. I panicked. You wouldn't have understood. I didn't plan it like that. Caroline showed up and it just happened. It's not what you think. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Please call me. I didn't answer, but I read every word like a forensic analyst because I wanted to understand what makes a man disappear 5 days before a wedding, only to reappear when his ex-girlfriend starts sending screenshots of the woman he abandoned, living her best life without him. The truth was, I could have ended it right there. Could have blocked him, posted a final photo and ghosted him, but that would have been too kind. Because Liam didn't just hurt me, he embarrassed me. He let my family book flights. Let my dad write a speech. Let my sister practice her maid of honor toast. He stood by while I made playlists, ordered place cards, and worked with a caterer for 6 months. All while knowing he had one foot out the door. He waited until it was too late to recover. He humiliated me without giving me a chance to protect myself, and that deserved a little clarity. I did what he never saw coming. I sent a photo, not of me, of him. That rooftop selfie with Caroline, the one he let her post while I was still calling hospitals, thinking he might be dead, and underneath it, I typed, "You're right. We should talk. But let's not pretend I don't already know the whole story." Then I dropped the screenshot of Caroline's DM, and one final message: "You ghosted me. So now, I'm just returning the favor." Blocked. Done. Power off, and right then, something unhooked from my ribs. Not relief, not satisfaction, but freedom, because I'd spent days, weeks, wondering how to fix something that was never my fault. Wondering how to forgive someone who couldn't even explain himself, but there was nothing to fix. He chose someone else. He chose silence. He chose cowardice. And I chose to walk barefoot through Italy with my head held high, wearing the dress I was supposed to save for the first dinner of our marriage. I wore it anyway, and I looked better without him. There's a strange kind of silence that comes after you block someone who once promised you forever. Not peace. Not grief, just absence. Like turning down the volume on a life you'd been screaming through. That's how I felt the morning after I blocked Liam. We were halfway through the honeymoon by then, 5 days in, 3 to go. The Amalfi sun poured through the white linen curtains like gold dust. The air smelled like salt and citrus. I woke up in a king-size bed, alone but not lonely, to the sound of Jenna ordering coffee from room service. "You okay?" she asked. Seeing me stir. I nodded. "I think I just did the final thing." "You mean blocking him?" "No," I said. "I mean letting it all go." Because up until that point, I hadn't. I'd taken the trip. I'd posted the photos. I'd smiled for the camera and danced barefoot in moonlight like a woman unbothered. But inside, I was still holding the weight of everything, the questions, the shame, the humiliating loop of why wasn't I enough. I hadn't let it go, not really. Even that message I sent him, it had been about power, about control, about showing him that I wasn't broken. But that morning, wrapped in hotel sheets that smelled like lavender and salt air, I felt something crack and float away. It was the moment I realized I didn't want him back, not even a little. And I didn't want answers either, because no answer would ever be good enough. The damage had been done. He had let me drown for 5 days in a sea of silence and shame, and I was never going to forget that. You don't come back from that kind of abandonment. Not with words, not with regret, not even with time. But here's the thing. When you hit your real breaking point, when the last piece of illusion finally disintegrates, something else starts to grow in its place. I didn't feel grief anymore. I felt curious. Like, what would my life look like if I never built it around a man again? Not just Liam, any man. What if I stopped waiting to be chosen, stopped performing worthiness, stopped shrinking, apologizing, compromising? What if I stopped believing that love had to come with self-sacrifice? I didn't have answers yet, but I had space, and sometimes that's all you need. Later that day, Jenna and I went into town. We took the long stairs down to the beach, stopped at a tiny ceramic shop, and ate lemon gelato under a striped umbrella by the water. I wore a sundress I'd originally bought for our honeymoon date night. Instead, I wore it to walk through the streets alone. People smiled at me. A couple even asked to take my photo, thinking I was some kind of travel influencer. I laughed and let them, because in a way, I was documenting something important. Not a trip. A transformation. That night, I posted a reel, clips of the market, the cliffs, the sea, a close-up of my hand trailing through a bowl of fresh basil leaves. The caption was simple: I didn't get the wedding, but I kept the honeymoon. Turns out, it's more than enough. It went viral. I woke up the next morning to 80,000 likes, 10,000 new followers, and a DM from a travel brand asking if I'd consider doing a sponsored post. Jenna squealed when she saw it. Girl, you are blowing up. I blinked at the screen. This wasn't supposed to be anything. Too late, she grinned. You're the poster girl for post-wedding rebirth. I wasn't sure how to feel about that, but I felt something crackle in my chest. Not pain, possibility. And then the twist came. Caroline messaged me again, not from her main account, from a second one. A private profile, no photos, no bio. Just a message: we broke up. He told me you were crazy. Said you ghosted him. He said you fabricated the whole engagement. I stared at the screen. Jenna gasped behind me. No freaking way. I didn't respond. Not right away, because something dark was starting to bloom under my ribs. He didn't just ghost me. He rewrote the entire story. I and his version. I was the villain. The unstable one. The obsessive one. The liar. That's when I hit my real breaking point. Not the heartbreak. Not the silence. Not even the public humiliation. This new betrayal, the rewriting of my truth, that was the final strike, and I knew exactly what to do. No screaming. No threats. No confrontation. Just the truth. Delivered publicly, like a scalpel. I made a video, not for revenge, for reclamation. It started simple. Just me, sitting on a windowsill in a white tank top, hair up, no makeup. Sunlight behind me. I looked into the camera and said, "Hi, I'm Riley. 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to get married. 5 days before the wedding, my fiancé disappeared. No call. No explanation. Just gone." I let the silence sit. Then I added, he posted a photo with his ex-girlfriend in another country while I was still canceling florists and calling hospitals. Another pause. I came on the honeymoon anyway. Not for closure. Not for spite. But because I deserved this week. I earned it. And because I realized I didn't need the wedding. I needed me. I ended it with one line, and if someone ever tries to rewrite your story, tell it louder. It got 2.6 million views in 2 days. I started getting messages from women around the world. Messages like, my fiancé bailed the morning of. I stayed quiet. Thank you for not doing the same. I thought I was the only one. I never got my apology either. You just gave me permission to stop waiting for it. And in that flood of empathy, something shifted again. I wasn't just healing. I was helping. And that's the moment I stopped feeling broken. That's the moment I realized my worst week had become my rebirth. And Liam. He was now just a ghost in someone else's inbox. They say success is the best revenge. But I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted something deeper. Something sharper. Something undeniable. I wanted to take the exact thing Liam used to break me, the honeymoon, the silence, the betrayal, and turn it into the very thing that exposed who he really was. He thought disappearing before the wedding was the power move. He didn't expect me to turn the entire narrative into a brand, because by the time I flew home from the Amalfi Coast, I wasn't just a heartbroken bride. I was a woman with a following. A woman with a voice. The morning after we landed, I woke up to my 5th podcast invitation and a DM from a book agent who'd seen the video I posted on the hotel windowsill. "There's a story here," she wrote. "I think a lot of people would want to hear it." I blinked at the message. Me? Writing a book. I hadn't written anything longer than a campaign brief in 5 years. But I couldn't deny the tug in my gut. The part of me that wanted to keep telling the truth, not just mine, but ours. All the women who'd written me since, women who had been ghosted, abandoned, gaslit, silenced. If Liam had taught me anything, it was how loud silence could be. How violent inaction could feel, and I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. The book started on a Sunday night. I sat at my desk, opened a blank Google Doc, and wrote, "This is a story about a woman who got left, and what she did with the space he left behind." From there, it poured out of me, chapter after chapter. Not just about the wedding. About how I'd spent years making myself smaller in relationships. About how I'd rationalized micro-betrayals as normal. About how I'd been so grateful to be loved that I stopped asking if I was being respected. The working title, Left at the Aisle, still on my feet. I wasn't writing to punish Liam. I was writing to prevent the next Riley from thinking it was her fault. By week 2, my inbox was flooded. News outlets were asking for interviews. Women were tagging me in posts about their own, blocked before the wedding stories. And then, Liam finally broke his silence. Publicly. He posted a video to his Instagram. Yes. A video. He was in a dimly lit room, hoodie on, eyes red like he'd cried or wanted us to think he had. "Hi, everyone," he began, like he was a YouTuber, not a man who left his fiancé 5 days before the altar. "I just want to say I'm sorry. To everyone involved. Especially to Riley. I know I hurt a lot of people. I wasn't ready. I panicked. I made a terrible choice. And I've had to live with that." He sniffed. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I wish I'd been stronger. I wish I'd done the right thing. I hope Riley's okay. I hope she finds happiness. She deserves that." He ended with a whispered, "I'm sorry." Comments were turned off. I watched it twice, then texted Jenna, "You see this?" She replied in seconds, "He's trying to rebrand himself as the tragic hero. Cute." And she was right. It wasn't an apology. It was an image rehab. The thing is, if he'd apologized to me directly, I might have believed it. But going public? Filming himself with dramatic lighting and rehearsed sincerity, that was strategy, and I knew how to play strategy better than he did. So I posted a response, just a photo. No caption, just me sitting on a bench outside a bookstore, holding the printed manuscript of my book, smiling wide. A sticky note on the cover read, "Dedicated to the woman who showed up when he didn't." The post went viral. By then, I had 200,000 followers. Every time someone shared my post, tagged me in a story, or stitched my video with their own, I felt stronger, not because I needed attention. Because I needed witnesses. I needed the world to see what happens when a woman is pushed to the edge and decides not to fall, but to leap. A few days later, I got a call from a woman named Melanie. She worked at a PR firm that handled digital reputation for influencers and thought leaders. "Have you ever considered doing a TEDx talk?" she asked. I laughed. "About what?" "How to get ghosted in style." She didn't laugh. "No. About how women rebuild after abandonment. About what we're owed and what we're not. About what it means to be left behind and still build forward." That stopped me cold. She was serious, and suddenly, so was I. We scheduled the talk for 3 months later. In the meantime, I went full in on building something bigger than a story. I started a newsletter. Weekly letters called After the Aisle. Advice. Reflections. Answers to the questions women sent me at 3 a.m. when they didn't know who else would understand. I created a private group called Unfiancéed, a safe space for women left at the altar, before the altar, or even long before love ever got that far. The community exploded. Turns out, heartbreak looks different on everyone, but the shape of betrayal? That's universal. And then came the moment that really made it real. The book sold. A mid-sized publisher offered me an advance. Nothing massive, not 6 figures. But enough to validate that my story had value, enough to know that my pain wasn't wasted. Liam tried to reach out again through a mutual friend, wanted to talk, to clear the air, maybe even collaborate. Collaborate. I nearly choked. This wasn't his comeback story. It was my origin story. He didn't get to put his name anywhere near it. Not anymore. I politely declined. Then I unfollowed the mutual friend. Because some bridges need to burn for the light they give off. The TEDx talk came and went. I stood on that stage in black heels and a tailored navy jumpsuit, hair pulled back, no notes in my hand. I told my story without crying, not because I was over it, but because I wasn't ashamed of it anymore. And when I walked off stage to a standing ovation, I didn't feel proud. I felt new, like I'd finally taken my power back, not from Liam, not from the silence, but from myself. I had turned the tables, not with revenge, not with rage, with rebirth. And Liam, he faded, slowly. Quietly. No new posts. No new followers. His video apology disappeared. People moved on because that's what they do when your story doesn't stick. But mine had legs. Mine had chapters. Mine was just getting started. It's a strange thing. Watching your name turn into a symbol, Riley Carter, wasn't just mine anymore. It was a hashtag. A podcast title. A TikTok soundbite. A face on a book cover at the airport bookstore next to the checkout line, under the words, "Left at the aisle, still on my feet." A memoir about losing him and finding myself. For a while, I tried to pretend it didn't feel surreal, that it didn't make my hands shake a little every time a stranger recognized me at a coffee shop and said, "I watched your video the day my engagement fell apart." It happened more than I ever expected. Women from all walks of life, teachers, CEOs, baristas, stay-at-home moms, pulling me aside to whisper, "He left me too," like we were part of some secret club, except we weren't whispering anymore. That was the whole point. I was building something loud, and the louder it got, the more Liam seemed to shrink into the background, until he didn't. Until he showed up again, but not to me. To my publisher. It started with a polite, professional email to my editor. Kayla, subject, concerns regarding factual integrity in forthcoming memoir. The sender, Liam.Rooker at lawpointconsulting.com. Found out about it the next morning when Kayla called me in a panic. "I didn't want to alarm you," she said, "but I figured you'd rather hear it from me." "Hear what?" I asked, heart thudding. She read aloud, "To whom it may concern, I'm reaching out regarding the upcoming memoir authored by Ms. Riley Carter, which appears to contain direct references to me, my likeness, and our prior relationship. I am concerned about the representation of events and its potential for defamation or mischaracterization." I closed my eyes. Of course, he was trying to intimidate me, not with a confrontation, not with apology, with legalese. He hadn't even read the book yet, at least I assumed he hadn't. The manuscript wasn't public. He hadn't been contacted for comment. And yet, here he was, crawling out from behind whatever rock he'd been under, swinging around a legal threat like it might undo the truth I'd already lived through. "He's bluffing," I told Kayla. "I have screenshots. I have receipts. Everything I wrote happened. Verifiably." "I figured," she said. "Our legal team isn't worried. But we wanted you to know he's watching." I hung up feeling strangely calm, not rattled, not afraid, just disappointed. I'd thought maybe he'd let it die quietly. Instead, he was doing exactly what he'd always done, rewriting the story to suit his comfort. A few hours later, I got the confirmation I needed. A DM from Caroline. Carolinix Heart 2.0. "He's talking to lawyers. Says you're profiting off a failed relationship. Said he was blindsided by the book. I told him to grow up. You want me to send you screenshots?" I stared at the message for a long time. Caroline and I had never met in person. We'd never even exchanged more than 2 or 3 messages. But now, months after the fallout, she was back, not as the other woman, not as a threat, but as a witness. I replied, "Yes. Thank you." She sent 6 screenshots. I end them. Liam was bitter, arrogant, unrepentant. Things like, "She's milking it for sympathy. She twisted everything. I bet she doesn't even believe half the stuff she wrote. She's capitalizing off my name." That last one made me laugh. My name had made his invisible. He couldn't handle it. That night, I sat in bed rereading the screenshots, the manuscript, the legal letter, all of it. And a quiet fury settled in my chest. He wasn't just trying to protect his ego. He was trying to silence me. Again. But this time, I had a platform. I had a choice, and I chose to speak. I opened Instagram, hit record, and said, "There are men who will ruin your life, then try to see you for telling the story." They won't call it abuse, or gaslighting, or abandonment. They'll call it defamation. But here's the thing, if you don't want to be written about like a villain, don't disappear like a coward. And if you try to shut down my truth with threats, you'll find out just how loud I can be. It got 3 million views overnight. My inbox exploded, not just from fans, from lawyers. Dozens of women attorneys reaching out to say, if you need backup, I've got you. Dozens more who said, this is why we do what we do. The next morning, my publisher's legal team issued a formal response to Liam's email, polite, firm, unshakable. I wasn't privy to the full exchange, but Kayla forwarded the final line. We are confident in the veracity of the content, and the author stands by her account. Should you have further concerns, we invite your legal counsel to reach out directly. He never did. He went quiet again, just like he had before, but this time, I wasn't spiraling in his silence. I was soaring in mine. The book released a month later. National tour. Talk show interviews. My TEDx talk was picked up by a streaming platform. The girl who once sobbed on a bathroom floor 5 days before her wedding was now sitting across from best-selling authors and magazine editors who called her the voice of a generation of heartbreak. And still, I stayed grounded. Jenna made sure of it. You're still just Riley to me, she reminded me one night in our favorite wine bar. You're still the girl who stole all the hotel shampoos and cried at pasta commercials. We both laughed. Hard. I needed that laugh, because in the middle of all the noise, I hadn't forgotten the girl I was before the heartbreak. The one who believed in love. Who planned a future with a man she thought would show up. That girl deserved a voice too. I started writing again. Not about Liam. Not about pain. About hope. About what comes next. And slowly, I realized something. This wasn't just my turning point. It was my origin story. Not as a victim, but as a woman who refused to let the worst thing that ever happened to her be the last thing. And Liam, he could watch or not. It didn't matter anymore, because the story was out, and I had turned every page into fire. It happened quietly, the way most real twists do. No thunder. No headlines, just a phone call on a random Thursday afternoon that changed everything. I was at a cafe on the north side of Chicago, halfway through editing my second book, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I was about to let it go to voicemail when something in my gut told me to pick up. Riley Carter? A woman asked. Yes, speaking. This is Camille Lawson. I'm a journalist with the Journal Review. I'm doing a story on workplace misconduct and whistleblower cases in professional consulting spaces. I'd love to speak with you off the record if you prefer. I blinked. I'm sorry, what does this have to do with me? She hesitated. It's about Liam Rooker. I froze. I understand you were once engaged to him? I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yes, a long time ago now. She sighed. I know this might come as a shock, but your story wasn't the only one. My skin prickled. Camille went on to explain that she'd been investigating a string of internal HR complaints filed at Liam's last 2 consulting jobs. Complaints that mirrored the same patterns I had once confused for quirks, or just how he is. Disappearing for days. Gaslighting female coworkers. Taking credit for others' work. Quietly manipulating professional relationships behind the scenes and then vanishing when confronted. Sexual advances disguised as charm. Excuses spun with empathy and practiced vulnerability. He didn't ghost just me. He ghosted promotions, projects, boundaries, people. Camille had tracked down 3 women who worked under him in leadership programs. Women who had been praised by clients, adored by teams, then suddenly demoted or pushed out after conflict with Liam. He used charisma like camouflage, she said. No one saw it until it was too late. And now, thanks to my book, more were coming forward, not to accuse him of crimes, but of conduct that systematically wrecked careers, reputations, and mental health, emotional sabotage, patterned manipulation. A whisper network turned megaphone. He tried to sue us too, Camille added quietly. Didn't go far. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, hands trembling around my coffee cup. She asked if I'd go on record. I paused. Not for revenge, I said. I didn't assume that. I'm not angry anymore. I just want the truth to have somewhere to land. She nodded. That's all I'm trying to give it. So I told her everything, not just about the wedding, but the small things too. How he told me my emotions were a little too much whenever I cried. How he'd subtly undermine me in social settings. Don't be so dramatic, babe. It's just a joke. How he'd twist every conversation back to himself until I was apologizing for his mistakes. How he once made me believe I was the unstable one, and I believed him. Camille listened without interrupting. Then she thanked me. Said the piece would go live within the month. I gave her my approval. Then I hung up, stepped into the cafe bathroom and cried, not because I was triggered, not because I was scared, because I realized something I hadn't dared believe until that moment. I wasn't alone. For the first time since Liam left, I knew, truly knew. It hadn't just happened to me. It had happened through him, and now? He was being seen, not as the one who got away, but the one who ran away over and over again until there were too many bodies left behind to bury under charm. The article dropped 3 weeks later, front page on the Journal Review's weekend edition. Title: The Ghost Executive, a Pattern of Vanishing, Blame, and Silence. It didn't name him in the headline, but his name was in the 3rd paragraph, and mine was in the 4th, along with a quote. He didn't just ghost the wedding. He ghosted the accountability that should have come with it. I got texts, DMs, emails, the most surprising one, from his mother. She messaged me on Facebook. I read the article. I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner. I believed what he told me, that you ran away, that you overreacted. I'm so sorry, Riley. I stared at her words, remembering the woman who once helped me pick my wedding shoes. I didn't know how to respond, but I knew I didn't need her apology. I just needed her silence to end, and now it had. After the article, everything shifted again. The Speaking Engagements .my publisher announced a reprint of the book with a new foreword, The Power of Naming Patterns. And Liam, he tried to fight it, released a blog post, claimed he was being unfairly targeted by women who misunderstood his intentions. He wrote, "Not all relationships work out. Not every manager and mentee dynamic succeeds. But turning regret into public vilification is dangerous." It got shared 24 times. Most of the comments were women tagging each other saying, "This is exactly what gaslighting looks like." He deleted the post within 48 hours, and that was the last time his name came up in a major outlet, because the truth doesn't need to scream to spread. It just needs to breathe. After that, I kept writing, speaking, creating, but I also started building something new. A nonprofit called the Reframe Project. A place for women to share stories of abandonment, sabotage, and silent sabotage in both romantic and professional settings, and get access to resources, legal consults, therapy connections, and most importantly, a place to be believed. We launched quietly, then went viral within a week, because apparently there were thousands of women who'd been ghosted out of jobs, dreams, relationships, without ever getting to name what happened. Now they could, and me, I didn't want a stage anymore. I wanted a network. I wanted impact. And it was happening. I wasn't just the girl who got left before her wedding. I was the woman who turned silence into a system and lit it up from the inside. Fallout doesn't always come with a bang. Sometimes it comes in pieces, scattered, incomplete, out of order. One day it's a phone call from someone who once ghosted you saying they never meant to hurt you. The next, it's a news alert about a man you used to love losing a consulting contract because a partner read your book. Then it's a DM from a girl in Kansas who writes, "I just walked out on my wedding. I read your story while sitting in my dress in a parking lot. Thank you for reminding me that my future doesn't depend on him showing up." That's what fallout feels like, not vindication. Ripples, tiny waves rolling out from the rock he threw into your life, crashing against shores you'll never even see. After the article dropped, Liam went dark, deleted his social media, disconnected his business site. My old mutuals, the ones I'd quietly muted instead of blocking, slowly vanished from my feeds. His name stopped coming up at parties, in emails, in conversation, and when it did, it was only whispered, "Isn't that the guy? Didn't she write the book about?" I heard he, and then silence, which was poetic in its own way. He used silence to disappear. I used it to build. But even as he faded, the storm kept rolling through my own life. My inbox was full of women with stories that sounded too familiar. Women who'd been left 2 days before a wedding, women who got ghosted mid-pregnancy, women who discovered their partners had second families. Women who left instead of waiting to be left, and were still grieving like they hadn't made the bravest choice of their lives. Some of their stories made me angry. Some made me cry. All of them reminded me, healing doesn't come from closure. It comes from community. The Reframe project grew faster than I expected. What started as a private group turned into a full-blown platform. We partnered with 3 legal orgs, brought on a trauma therapist as a weekly contributor, had more than 100,000 subscribers within 4 months, and with it came the press, more interviews, more panels, more exposure. It was amazing and exhausting because behind the scenes, I was still trying to find me, not the ghosted bride, not the viral story, not the she wrote the breakup book, girl.me, the woman who still flinched when her phone rang from a blocked number, who still had nightmares that he showed up at her book signing pretending nothing ever happened, who still hadn't opened the box in her closet labeled wedding, final. Inside, my shoes, the veil, the embroidered napkins. I didn't throw them out. I couldn't, not because I wanted them back, but because they reminded me who I used to be. I needed to remember that girl, too, the one who hoped, the one who believed in forever, the one who still deserves a future, just not his. One night, I went to a networking event for female founders. It was rooftop drinks, catered tapas, the usual. I wore a navy silk slip dress and kitten heels. Lipstick bold enough to say I don't flinch anymore, but soft enough to leave room for nuance. Halfway through, a woman approached me with a smile that said she knew me. "I'm not going to lie," she started. "I bought your book after my ex tried to sue me for breaking the lease when he moved out." I laughed. "Sounds familiar." She leaned in. "But you know what I really loved? That you didn't make it about him." That made me pause. I kept waiting for the big reveal. The gotcha moment. The takedown, she continued. But it never came. You just told the truth. And somehow that hit harder. I felt something unlock in my chest. That's what I'd hoped for. Always, not revenge, just truth. We talked for 20 minutes. Her name was Talia. She was building a mental health app. Single. In her late 30s. Thought she was past the age where heartbreak still hit this hard. We exchanged numbers. Followed each other on Instagram. Made plans to meet for lunch. I walked away from that event feeling something new, something I hadn't let myself feel in almost a year. Open.to possibility. Not romance, not yet, but connection, real. Human connection that wasn't tethered to pain. That night, I went home and opened the box in the closet, sat on the floor in silence, letting each item pass through my hands like evidence: shoes, napkins, invitation samples. And then, at the bottom, folded small and fragile, the vows I never gave, written in my handwriting. Smudged from when I first cried over them. I read them out loud for the first time since he left, and somewhere in the middle, I stopped reading them to him. I started reading them to me. I promised to show up. Even when it's hard. Even when it's not convenient. Even when I'm scared. I promise to choose this again and again. I promise to believe that love is not a vanishing act, but a presence. I folded them up, stood, walked to the kitchen, and burned them in the sink, not out of rage, out of reverence, because I meant every word. I just gave them to the wrong person. Now, they belong to me. I didn't keep the veil. Or the shoes. Or the napkins. I donated them to a local nonprofit that helps women who've left abusive relationships restart their lives, weddings included. The only thing I kept, the ring. Not because I wanted to remember him, because I wanted to remember me. The woman who got that ring wasn't broken. She was brave, and I wasn't done being her. You'd think closure comes in some grand, cinematic moment. A confrontation in a cafe. A letter in the mail. A voice on the other end of the phone saying, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." But mine didn't come from any of that. Closure came on a Tuesday morning, 7 minutes into a podcast episode one didn't even want to record. I was tired that day, emotionally drained. Booked her fatigue. Inbox full of women's stories I was too heavy to hold. I almost canceled, but I didn't. I showed up, sat across from the host in a studio downtown, wrapped myself in the sweater I'd grabbed last minute, and tried to smile like I still had something new to say. She hit record. We made it through the pleasantries. Then she asked, Riley, do you believe you're over it now? I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, long and uncomfortable, just like I'd learned to do when the truth needed space. And then I said, no, I'm not over it. But I'm not under it anymore either. That was it. The truth, clean, quiet, solid, not packaged for applause, just real. The episode aired a week later. My DMs exploded again, this time not from women needing rescue, but from women saying, that's exactly how it feels. Not over, not broken, just no longer underneath it all. Not buried, not stuck, not waiting for closure to be delivered like a package that never arrives. Because here's what I finally understand. Closure isn't something you get from someone else. It's something you choose for yourself, and I chose mine the day I stopped needing his silence to end in a sentence. Liam never apologized, not properly, not sincerely. He never sat across from me and said, I see what I did. He never owned the gut punch that came from disappearing 5 days before our wedding. He never acknowledged the humiliation, the loss, the trauma. He never asked what it felt like to spend days calling hospitals and filing missing persons reports, only to find his smile on Instagram, wrapped in the arms of a woman he swore was ancient history. He never gave me that, and he never will. But you know what? I'm okay with that, because he doesn't owe me anything anymore. Not my time. Not my grief. Not even my anger. I've reclaimed all of it, and in its place, I've built something better. A life that's mine, fully, completely, unapologetically mine. I live in a sunlit loft now. Exposed brick. Plants in every window. A writing desk by the bay doors that open to a view of the lake. The kind of place I always imagined I'd move into once I got married. Funny thing is, I don't need the husband anymore. I have everything else. Jenna comes over on Sundays. We drink wine on the balcony and talk about how strange it is to become women we actually like. Women who aren't pretending anymore. She met someone, by the way. Not that it defines her. She told him from the beginning. I don't belong to anyone. I don't need saving. And if you can't handle that, then I won't waste either of our time. He said, good. Because I'm not trying to be your hero. Just your witness. I cried when she told me that. Because isn't that what we all want? Not someone to fix it, just someone to stay. TOCS. To hold the light steady when the storm comes. As for me, I haven't dated seriously since Liam, not because I'm closed off, but because I'm finally open. And I'm not willing to let just anyone in. I've learned to love solitude. To find joy in my own company. To flirt with the version of myself I used to keep hidden behind compromise and accommodation. The woman who orders oysters for one. Who travels solo and doesn't apologize for the empty seat across from her, who writes about pain not to dwell in it, but to map the way out for someone else. And yes, sometimes it's still hard. Grief isn't a straight line. There are days I wonder who I'd be if he hadn't left. If we'd gotten married. If I'd moved into the townhouse we toured. If I'd worn that white dress down the aisle instead of up the Amalfi Coast steps, barefoot and alone. But then I remember. That version of me was waiting to be chosen. This version, she chooses herself every damn day. She doesn't beg, she doesn't shrink, she doesn't explain her power or soften her edges for people too small to hold them. She just lives, fully, fiercely, free. One of the last messages I got before I finally archived the wedding folder on my laptop was from a woman in her 60s. She wrote, my fiancé left me in 1989. I never got over it. I married someone else. I raised kids. But I never gave myself permission to say, that wasn't okay. Until I read your book. I sat with that message for a long time, because if this entire storm, the heartbreak, the ghosting, the silence, the grief, the public fallout, led to that one woman reclaiming her voice, it was worth it. Every tear, every panic attack. Every night I stared at the ceiling wondering how someone who said they loved me could vanish without a trace. It was worth it, because I got my voice back too, and I'll never lose it again. If you're reading this now, if you've been ghosted, abandoned, discarded, or forgotten, please hear me. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not crazy for wanting answers, or peace, or love that doesn't require you to betray yourself. You are still whole, even in the wreckage, especially in the wreckage, because what comes next? That's where the real story begins. And you're the only author. So write it bold, write it loud, write it with all the parts of you he tried to dim, and if he ever reads it, if he ever stumbles across your name and sees the life you built without him, let him feel the sting of your silence, because this time, you're the one who disappears, not in pain. In power.